I'm Bree and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all sorts of bookish things. May is AAPI Heritage Month, so today we're going to be talking about some of my recommendations for what to read this month and all year round, honestly. But we'll be talking through some of my favorites from the past 2 years. Let's get into it. First up, Hamajang Luck by Makana Yamamoto. This came out just this past January. I would describe it as Ocean's 8, but on a space station, and with a lot more queer rep, some non-binary rep, and largely a love letter to Hawaiian culture. I think this is one of the more unique books that I have read. It combines so many interesting elements. I don't think I've read really any science fiction that I felt like, wow, this is so special and so different. I really loved it. I had so much fun with it. I think I read this in one sitting, and I really can't wait to read whatever Makana writes next. It was so fun. Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yombao. I know this one had a ton of hype and was talked about a lot, both before and after it came out. And the description most people use for this is like very Studio Ghibli vibes. I do agree with that. You follow a young woman who inherits a pawn shop where people can go in and trade in their regrets. And on the day that she takes over the pawn shop, her father disappears. And a young man comes into the shop, and together they go on this adventure to find her father. Now, I wouldn't say that this is like super plot heavy. There is like a little romance subplot, but mostly this is just very atmospheric, very vibey. If you love Studio Ghibli movies, you will definitely appreciate the like Japanese influence in here, I think. I loved it for mostly the setting. The characters weren't like the most built out special characters ever, but I still really enjoyed it. Another newer release, Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. This has largely been described as Succession plus magic. I do agree with that. It explores some really interesting themes of what it's like to get to adulthood and realize that you haven't lived up to your adolescent potential. You follow 3 siblings who are just floundering kind of in their lives. Their tech mogul father has just died, and they're coming together to sort of see who will take over the company, see what will happen in the will. And they've all got these sort of interesting magical powers going on. The characters were all fascinating in this. I listened to the audiobook and just loved the narration, so if you like audiobooks, I would definitely recommend going with that. But I loved this. This was my first book by Olivia Blake, and I just absolutely fell in love with her writing. Can't wait to read more. This was such a fun time. If you haven't read anything by R.F. Kuang, I don't know where you've been. Maybe you're intimidated, and that's fair because people hype all of her books up. Babel was the first book I read by her. This is dark academia plus lots of colonialism themes, some magic. It will break your heart in the best way possible. And I think it's a fantastic introduction to her writing. I also loved Yellowface by her. I still need to read the Poppy War trilogy by her, but Babel is stellar. It's absolutely a 5-star book. I haven't heard really anyone give it a bad review. It is quite dense, so be prepared for that, but definitely worth reading. If you like a cozy, funny mystery, I have 2 authors to recommend to you. The first is Jessie Q. Sutanto. She wrote the Dial A for Auntie series, and she's also written the Vera Wong series. I've read the first one, but not the new one. These are so fun. They're so fun. They're so funny. They're great little palate cleansers. There is like a romantic subplot in these. You follow, in Dial A for Auntie series, you follow Madeline Chan and her 4 aunties. They run a wedding-based business. They all have their own little jobs within their wedding business. It's just, they're so entertaining. They're very like wholesome. And again, I love the audiobooks for these, and same for Vera Wong. Arsenic and Adobo. This is the first one and only one I've read in this series, but very similar vibes, kind of cozy mystery, nothing too dark or scary or anything like that. Yeah, definitely interested in reading more of these. And finally, a kind of out of the box recommendation. If you are a poetry person, and honestly, even if you're not a poetry person, Tai Tibble is a Maori poet. This is like peak millennial poetry. And that might sound bad, but I mean it in the best way. It is relatable, it is funny. I laughed out loud at some of these. These just hit. I adore Tai Tibble. She's so fun. I did not know poetry could be so fun, honestly. Like, I thought it had to be kind of depressing, but these are great. I mean, just look at her author photo on the back. Yeah, and these are nice little quick reads, like one sitting reads. Also, we should all be reading more Maori writers. All right, that is all I have for recommendations today. I would love to hear what you're planning to read for AAPI month this year, or for the rest of the year, honestly. Happy reading!